Finally, hope for change on immigration. Obama gave a speech today on immigration policy, stating that young undocumented immigrants will now be legalized in the United States. The latest news is believed to affect 800,000 undocumented immigrants living in America. Many have questioned Obama's support for immigration reform, considering how not much has been done since his 2008 campaign rhetoric. To talk more about whether or not this was a political pandering to the Latino vote and what this means for the country, Ron Gochez, community organizer, joined me earlier today. Take a look.
Well, I think in part definitely it's political pandering, but at the same time, I think it's a remarkable victory for all the young people who have been organizing so hard to make this happen. You know, if it wasn't for the pressure of grassroots groups that have been organizing for so many years, this would not have happened. So it's a victory for the community, and I'm happy that it's happening.
And so you're excited about it. Let's look really quickly, Ron, about the specifications of who could apply. They must be under 30 years old, must have arrived in the U.S. before they turned 16, must have lived in the U.S. for 5 years, earned a high school diploma, GED, and must have not been convicted of a felony offense. Is this just saying that young immigrants who can be put to work can be legalized?
Yeah, well, this is a great step for these folks, and I think that we have to understand that this only represents 6% of the 11 million people who are undocumented in this country. So this is definitely not the full solution, but this is, a step in the positive direction. I think this is good for young students who will now have the chance to work legally in this country. But at the same time, we see that, this only covers people until they're 30. So after that point, you're really in the same hole that we were before. So we're going to continue to push so that we have real legalization in this country for not just students, but for all people in our community, and there's millions of people that will not be affected by this new change in policy. So we have a lot of work to do.
Why do you think that it took them, 4 years to do this?
I think it's no coincidence that in the last couple of weeks, young people, dreamers, activists, they have been occupying Democratic Party centers all throughout this country to pressure and to highlight the fact that this is not being done by a Republican administration. This is being done by the Democratic Party, by President Obama, who has already deported more than 1.2 million people. So they know that the Latino community is very discontent with the administration, so they need to do something to rescue some votes. Now, we're saying this is not enough. This is only for 6% of our population. We need to continue to have more, and just like President Obama took the leadership and having an executive order to put an end to the deportation of the dreamers, he can just as easily do this for the rest of the community who desperately needs a change, because we have millions of workers in this country who have no protection right now. So this is great for the students, but what about their parents and the rest of their family members?
I wanted to play you a soundbite from Obama's speech today, Ron.
This is a temporary stopgap measure that lets us focus our resources wisely while giving a degree of relief and hope to talented, driven, patriotic young people. It is the right thing to do.
So, Ron, there he is, kind of saying it's great and, the right thing to do. But, Ron, you just said yourself he's deported more immigrants than any other president. And he also boasted kind of about that, saying, we have less deportations at the border and less illegal immigrant crossing into this country. Do you think that that's kind of a doublespeak coming from him?
It's definitely a doublespeak. You can't say it's the right thing to do and in the same sentence say it's temporary. If this is the right thing to do, then it needs to be permanent, and that it needs to apply not only to 6% of our population, the students, but it also has to apply to the rest of the community. And it's very easy for him to say that it's a broken immigration system, and he keeps putting it on the Republicans and he keeps putting it on the Congress, but he does have the power of the executive order. And this morning he used it, and he needs to use it again so that the rest of the people, 11 million people, can also finally live legally in this country and not have to fear constant deportation, constant separation of families and the rest. So we're going to continue to support groups all over the country. In LA, we have groups like Surge, we have groups like Ideas. They're going to continue to fight because this fight is not over. This is only the beginning.
It is a very divided issue, though, Ron, in the government. What chance do you think that is to get, to get full legalization for all immigrants living here?
Well, it's definitely a political issue. If President Obama really fully believes that he wants to do what's the right thing, then it's very obvious. Not only economically speaking, we know that migrants and immigrants in this country contribute billions of dollars that they never get back in their taxes. But we, at the same time, politically, we have a lot of anti-immigrant, reactionary xenophobia that really is putting pressure on him not to have an immigration reform. So if he's going to do the right thing, the correct thing to do, it's to legalize everybody in this country. And we're going to continue to push for that, regardless of who wins the elections in November, regardless if it's Democrats, Republicans. Our people live in fear. They're terrorized daily. So we need more changes. Today was a great step in the right direction, but we need much more.
What do you say to people who say this was the wrong thing to do and that we shouldn't have undocumented immigrants here stealing jobs or whatever else the talking points are against immigration here?
Well, I think I have yet to hear something that truly makes sense. Most of the arguments are very racist in nature. They say, no, they call us anchor babies. They call us all these terrible terms, but they don't really go to the bottom or the root of the issue, and that is the reason why so many millions of people come to this country, and that's because of the economic policies that are imposed upon our countries by Washington, D.C. You know, if we couldn't enjoy our own resources, we wouldn't have to come to this country. So we're here, we're contributing, we're adding to the economy. Everyone knows, look what's happening in Georgia and Alabama. Look at their economy. Without labor, without migrants and immigrants and labor, the economy is going to suffer tremendously. So it's the right thing to do, economically speaking, but just, in terms of morality, what kind of country throws out millions of people who are contributing to the country, who are not criminals, and we're also, I want to say, we're not going to accept the fact that they're blaming the parents, saying, well, these kids didn't do anything wrong, but their parents did. That's absolutely false. Our parents come here for a better life. They risk their lives to come here, and they contribute to this country. They're not here to steal anything or to damage or to harm anyone. They're here for a better life, and that, at the same time, is making this country better and stronger.
Ron, I wanted to play you a clip from a previous interview that you had on RT talking about this issue.
Sure. We're pushing the message. We're saying that to the Democratic Party or to any of the politicians, we're saying those who promise our community legalization and have not kept their promises of some type of immigration reform, we're saying, well, no legalization, no re-election. Don't think about coming into our communities and asking for our vote if you didn't keep to your promises of legalizing our communities. So there you are saying, you're not going to get our vote unless you do this. And here he comes out today and says, yay, legalization for these communities. So, Ron, does Obama have your vote now? Not yet. And I would say we don't have legalization today. This only provides a temporary relief that it means we won't get deported, but it's not a legalization because we still can't get driver's licenses. We still won't be able to vote. And there's a lot of rights that we still want to have. So I think if President Obama and the Democratic Party or any party or politician wants the vote of the Latino community, they're going to have to come through on these promises. And so far, they have been unkept. This is more like a bullet wound that is still bleeding. Today, we got a Band-Aid, but that's simply not enough.
So who will have your vote at this time? Are you just not going to vote, or does anyone match what you want to see happen?
I think, it's the responsibility of those who can vote to go out and vote, but only vote for politicians or for parties that represent their interest. And if there is no one that represents our interest, then we have nothing to do with. We should have nothing to do with these parties. So I'm going to vote, but I obviously I'm not going to vote for a Republican. And if there's no vote or there's no promise kept by the Obama administration, then I cannot myself or tell anyone else and have any kind of dignity by going and voting for the Democratic Party.
So, Ron, you said yourself, it is in part political pandering, but also it is a giant step for recognizing immigration and in part legalizing them. I know not in full. But, I mean, do you really think this is going to do anything? You said yourself that it really doesn't do that much. And here it took Obama 3 years to even get here. What do you think is going to happen in this two-party system that we have to really go forward with the issue?
Yeah, well, I don't want to belittle the issue. A lot of people worked very hard to make this happen. And it is a very sizable victory for the people who have been pushing for this. However, within the framework, within the big picture here, obviously, we still leaves more than 94% of our community that has no pathway to legalization. And even with today's change, they still don't have a pathway. So I think it's a political hot potato that the president is tossing back and forth with the Congress. But if he really believes that it's a broken immigration system, if he really believes that he wants to do the right thing, then he can use the same power of the executive order to put a complete halt or a moratorium on all deportations until this is fixed in Congress. That would be the right thing to do.
What's broken about it?
What's broken about it is that there right now is no real way for people to become legalized. You have millions of people who are already here who obviously it's not feasible for them to go back to any other country to wait in line for 10 or 12 years to be separated from their families and to maybe be able to become legal in this country. That's broken. And when you have millions of people in this country who work hard, who contribute to the economy, if they're tossed out, what is that going to do to the American economy? Who's going to pick the fruits and food that we eat every day? Who's going to do the jobs that most Americans, quite honestly, will absolutely never do? That is what's broken about the system, that it's dependent upon our people to work here, but at the same time trying to deport millions of our people. So that's how we have to continue to struggle and pressure any administration so that we become legalized completely, not a partial legalization, not a second-class citizenship type legalization, but a full legalization like everybody else in this country.
Thanks for coming on, Ron. I appreciate your time. That was Ron Gochez, community organizer.